The visitor. Saul Williams awoke to the still morning. He looked wearily out of his tent and thought about how far away Earth was. Millions of miles, he thought. But then what could you do about it? Your lungs were full of the blood rust. You coughed all the time. Saul arose this particular morning at 7 o'clock. He was a tall, lean, thinned by his illness man. It was a quiet morning on Mars, with the Dead Sea bottom flat and silent. No wind on it. The sun was clear and cool in the empty sky. He washed his face and ate breakfast. After that he wanted very much to be back on Earth. During the day he tried every way that it was possible to be in New York City. Sometimes if he sat right and held his hands a certain way, he did it. He could almost smell New York. Most of the time, though, it was impossible. Later in the morning, Saul tried to die. He lay on the sand and told his heart to stop. It continued beating. He imagined himself leaping from a cliff or cutting his wrists, but laughed to himself. He knew he lacked the nerve for either act. Maybe if I squeeze tight and think about it enough, I'll just sleep and never wake, he thought. He tried it. An hour later, he awoke with a mouthful of blood. He got up and spat it out and felt very sorry for himself. This blood rust, it filled your mouth and nose. It ran from your ears, your fingernails. It took a year to kill you. The only cure was showing you in a rocket and shooting you out to exile on Mars. There was no known cure on Earth, and remaining there would contaminate and kill others, so that here he was, bleeding all the time and lonely. Saul's eyes narrowed. In the distance, by an ancient city ruin, he saw another man lying on a filthy blanket. When Saul walked up, the man on the blanket stirred weakly. "Hello, Saul," he said. "Another morning," said Saul. "I'm lonely." "It is an affliction of the rested one," said the man on the blanket, not moving, very pale as if he might vanish if you touched him. "I wish to God," said Saul, looking down at the man, "that you could at least talk. Why is it that intellectuals never get the blood rust and come up here?" "It is a conspiracy against you, Saul," said the man, shutting his eyes, too weary to keep them open. "Once I had the strength to be an intellectual, now it is a job to think." "If only we could talk," said Saul Williams. The other man merely shrugged indifferently. "Come tomorrow. Perhaps I'll have enough strength to talk about Aristotle then. I'll try. Really, I will." The man sank down under the worn tree. He opened one eye. "Remember, once we did talk on Aristotle 6 months ago, on that good day I had." "I remember," said Saul, not listening. He looked at the Dead Sea. "I wish I were as sick as you, then maybe I wouldn't worry about being an intellectual. Then maybe I'd get some peace." "You'll get just as bad as I am now in about 6 months," said the dying man. "Then you won't care about anything but sleep and more sleep. Sleep will be like a woman to you. You'll always go back to her because she's fresh and good and faithful, and she always treats you kindly and the same. You only wake up so you can think about going back to sleep. It's a nice thought." The man's voice was a bare whisper. Now it stopped, and a light breathing took over. Saul walked off. Along the shores of the Dead Sea, like so many emptied bottles flung up by some long-gone grave, were the huddled bodies of sleeping men. Saul could see them all down the curve of the empty sea, 1, 2, 3, all of them sleeping alone, most of them worse off than he, each with his little cachet of food, each grown into himself, because social converse was weakening and sleep was good. At first there had been a few nights around mutual campfires, and they had all talked about Earth. That was the only thing they talked about, Earth and the way the waters ran in town creeks and what homemade strawberry pie tastes like and how New York looked in the early morning coming over on the Jersey ferry in the salt wind. "I want Earth," thought Saul. "I want it so bad it hurts. I want something I can never have again, and they all want it, and it hurts them not to have it. More than food or a woman or anything, I just want Earth. The sickness puts women away forever. They're not things to be wanted, but Earth, yes. That's a thing for the mind and not the weak body." The bright metal flashed on the sky. Saul looked up. The bright metal flashed again. A minute later the rocket landed on the sea bottom. A wave opened. A man stepped out carrying his luggage with him. 2 other men in protective germicide suits accompanied him, bringing out vast cases of food and setting up a tent for him. Another minute and the rocket returned to the sky. The exile stood alone. Saul began to run. He hadn't run in weeks, and it was very tiring, but he ran and yelled, "Hello, hello!" The young man looked Saul up and down when he arrived. "Hello, this is Mars. My name's Leonard Mark." "I'm Saul Williams." They shook hands. Leonard Mark was very young, only 18, very blond, pink-faced, blue-eyed, and fresh in spite of his illness. "How are things in New York?" said Saul. "Like this," said Leonard Mark, and he looked at Saul. "New York grew up out of the desert, made of stone and filled with March winds. Neons exploded in electric color. Yellow taxis glided in a still night. Bridges rose and tugs chanted in the midnight harbors. Curtains rose on spangled musicals. Saul put his hands to his head violently. Hold on, he cried. What's happening to me? What's wrong with me? I'm going crazy. Leaves sprouted from trees in Central Park, green and new. On the pathway, Saul strolled along, smelling the air. Stop it, you fool, Saul shouted at himself. He pressed his forehead with his hands. This can't be. It is, said Leonard Mark. The New York towers faded. Mars returned. Saul stood on the empty sea bottom, staring limply at the young newcomer. You, he said, putting his hand out to Leonard Mark. You did it with your mind. Yes, said Leonard Mark. Silently they stood facing each other. Finally, trembling, Saul seized the other axe on his hand and wrung it again and again, saying, Oh, but I'm glad you're here. You can't know how glad I am. They drank their rich brown coffee in the tin cups. It was high noon. They had been talking all through the warm morning time. And this ability of yours, said Saul over his cup, looking steadily at the young Leonard Mark. It's just something I was born with, said Mark, looking into his drink. My mother was in the blow-up of London back in '57. I was born 10 months later. I don't know what you call my ability. Telepathy and thought transference, I suppose. I used to have an act. I traveled all around the world. Leonard Mark, the mental marvel, they said on the billboards. I was pretty well off. Most people thought I was a charlatan. You know what people think of theatrical folks. Only I knew I was really genuine, but I didn't let anybody know. It was safer not to let it get around too much. A few of my close friends knew about my real ability. I had a lot of talents that will come in handy now that I'm here on Mars. You sure scared the H out of me, said Saul, his cup rigid in his hand. When New York came right up out of the ground that way, I thought I was insane. It's a form of hypnotism which affects all of the sensual organs at once. Eyes, ears, nose, mouth, skin, all of them. What would you like to be doing now most of all? Saul put down his cup. He tried to hold his hands very steady. He wet his lips. I'd like to be in a little creek I used to swim in Mellontown, Illinois, when I was a kid. I'd like to be stark naked and swimming. Well, said Leonard Mark, and moved his head ever so little. Saul fell back on the sand, his eyes shut. Leonard Mark sat watching him. Saul lay on the sand. From time to time his hands moved, twitched excitedly. His mouth spasmed open. Sounds issued from his tightening and relaxing throat. Saul began to make slow movements of his arms out and back, gasping with his head to one side, his arms going and coming slowly on the warm air, stirring the yellow sand under him, his body turning slowly over. Leonard Mark quietly finished his coffee. While he drank, he kept his eyes on the moving, whispering Saul lying there on the Dead Sea bottom. All right, said Leonard Mark. Saul sat up, rubbing his face. After a moment he told Leonard Mark, I saw the creek. I ran along the bank and I took off my clothes, he said breathlessly, his smile incredulous. And I dived in and swam around. I'm pleased, said Leonard Mark. Here, Saul reached into his pocket and drew forth his last bar of chocolate. This is for you. What's this? Leonard Mark looked at the gift. Chocolate? Nonsense. I'm not doing this for pay. I'm doing it because it makes you happy. Put that thing back in your pocket before I turn it into a rattlesnake and it bites you. Thank you, Saul put it away. You don't know how good that water was. He fetched the coffee pot. More? Pouring the coffee, Saul shut his eyes a moment. I've got Socrates here, thought. Socrates and Plato and Nietzsche and Schopenhauer. This man, by his talk, is a genius. By his talent, he's incredible. Think of the long, easy days and the cool nights of talk we'll have. It won't be a bad year at all, not half. He spilled the coffee. What's wrong? Nothing. Saul himself was confused, startled. We'll be in Greece, he thought, in Athens. We'll be in Rome if we want. When we study the Roman writers, we'll stand at the Parthenon and Acropolis. It won't be just talk, but it'll be a place to be. Besides, this man can do it. He has the power to do it. When we talk of the plays of Racine, he can make a stage and players and all of it for me. This is better than life ever was. How much better to be sick and here than well on earth without these abilities. How many people have ever seen a Greek drama played in a Greek amphitheater in the year 31 BC? And if I ask quietly and earnestly, will this man take on the aspect of Schopenhauer and Darwin and Bergson and all the other thoughtful men of the ages? Yes, why not? To sit and talk with Nietzsche in person and Plato himself, there is only one thing wrong. Saul felt himself swaying. The other men, the other sick ones along the bottom of the Dead Sea. In the distance men were moving, walking toward them. They had seen the rocket flash, land, dislodge a passenger. Now they were coming slowly, painfully, to greet the new arrival. Saul was cold. Look, he said. Mark, I think we'd better head for the mountains. Why? See those men coming? Some of them are insane. Really? Yes. Isolation will all make them that way. Yes, that's it. We'd better get going. They don't look very dangerous. They move slowly. You'd be surprised. Mark looked at Saul. You're trembling. Why's that? There's no time to talk, said Saul, getting up swiftly. Come on, don't you realize what'll happen once they discover your talent? They'll fight over you. They'll kill each other. Kill you for the right to own you. Oh, but I don't belong to anybody, said Leonard Mark. He looked at Saul. No, not even you. Saul jerked his head. I didn't even think of that. Didn't you now? Mark laughed. We haven't time to argue, answered Saul, eyes blinking, cheeks blazing. Come on. I don't want to. I'm going to sit right here until those men show up. You're a little too possessive. My life's my own. Saul felt the ugliness in himself. His face began to twist. You heard what I said. How very quickly you changed from a friend to an enemy, observed Mark. Saul hit him. It was a neat, quick blow. Coming down, Mark ducked aside, laughing. No, you don't. They were in the center of Times Square. Cars roared, hooting upon them. Buildings plunged up hot into the blue air. It's a lie, cried Saul, staggering under the visual impact. For God's sake, don't, Mark. The men are coming. You'll be killed. Mark sat there on the pavement, laughing at his joke. Let them come. I can fool them all. New York distracted Saul. It was meant to distract, meant to keep his attention with its unholy beauty, after so many months away from it. Instead of attacking Mark, he could only stand, drinking in the alien but familiar scene. He shut his eyes, no, and fell forward, dragging Mark with him. Horns screamed in his ears, brakes hissed and caught violently. He smashed at Mark's chin, silence. Mark lay on the sea bottom. Taking the unconscious man in his arms, Saul began to run heavily. New York was gone. There was only the wide soundlessness of the Dead Sea. The men were closing in around him. He headed for the hills with his precious cargo, with New York and green country and fresh springs and old friends held in his arms. He fell once and struggled up. He did not stop running. Night filled the cave. The wind wandered in and out, tugging at the small fire, scattering ashes. Mark opened his eyes. He was tied with ropes, and leaning against the dry wall of the cave, facing the fire. Saul put another stick in the fire, glancing now and again with a cat-like nervousness at the cave entrance. You're a fool, Saul started. Yes, said Mark, you're a fool. They'll find us. If they have to hunt for 6 months, they'll find us. They saw New York at a distance like a mirage, and us in the center of it. It's too much to think they won't be curious and follow our trail. I'll move on with you then, said Saul, staring into the fire, and they'll come after. Shut up, Mark smiled. Is that the way you speak to your wife? You heard me. Oh, a fine marriage this is, your greed and my mental ability. What do you want to see now? Shall I show you a few more of your childhood scenes? Saul felt the sweat coming on his brow. He didn't know if the man was joking or not. Yes, he said. All right, said Mark. Watch. Flame gushed out of the rocks. Sulphur choked him. Pits of brimstone exploded. Concussions rocked the cave. Heaving up, Saul coughed and blundered, burned, withered by hell. Up. Hell went away. The cave returned. Mark was laughing. Saul stood over him. You, he said, coldly bending down. What else do you expect? Cried Mark. To be tied up, toted off, made the intellectual bride of a man insane with loneliness? Do you think I enjoy this? I'll untie you if you promise not to run away. I couldn't promise that. I'm a free agent. I don't belong to anybody. Saul got down on his knees. But you've got to belong. Do you hear? You've got to belong. I can't let you go away. My dear fellow, the more you say things like that, the more remote I am. If you'd had any sense and done things intelligently, we'd have been friends. I'd have been glad to do you these little hypnotic favors. After all, they're no trouble for me to conjure up. Fun, really. But you botched it. You wanted me all to yourself. You were afraid the others would take me away from you. Oh, how mistaken you were. I have enough power to keep them all happy. You could have shared me, like a community kitchen. I'd have felt quite like a god among children, being kind, doing favors, in return for which you might bring me little gifts, special tidbits of food. I'm sorry, Saul cried, but I know these men too well. Are you any different? Hardly. Go out and see if they're coming. I thought I heard a noise. Saul ran. In the cave entrance he cupped his hands, peering down into the night-filled gully. Dim shapes stirred. Was it only the wind blowing or roving clumps of weeds? He began to tremble. A fine, aching tremble. I don't see anything. He came back into an empty cave. He stared at the fireplace. Mark! Mark was gone. There was nothing but the cave, filled with boulders, stones, pebbles, a lonely fire flickering, the wind sighing, and Saul standing there, incredulous and numb. Mark, Mark, come back! The man worked free of his bonds slowly, carefully, and using the ruse of imagining, he heard the other men approaching. Had gone where? The cave was deep but ended in a blank wall, and Mark could not have slipped past him into the night. How then? Saul stepped around the fire. He drew his knife and approached the large boulder that stood against the cave wall. Smiling, he pressed the knife against the boulder. Smiling, he tapped the knife there. Then he drew his knife back to plunge it into the boulder. Stop! Shouted Mark. The boulder vanished. Mark was there. Saul suspended his knife. The fire played on his cheeks. His eyes were quite insane. It didn't work, he whispered. He reached down and put his hands on Mark's throat and closed his fingers. Mark said nothing but moved uneasily in the grip, his eyes ironic, telling things to Saul that Saul knew. If you kill me, the eyes said, where will all your dreams be? If you kill me, where will all the streams and brook trout be? Kill me, kill Plato, kill Aristotle, kill Einstein. Yes, kill all of us. Go ahead, strangle me, I dare you. Saul's fingers released the throat. Shadows moved into the cave mouth. Both men turned their heads. The other men were there, 5 of them, haggard with travel, panting, waiting in the outer rim of light. Good evening, called Mark, laughing. Come in, gentlemen. By dawn the arguments and ferocity still continued. Mark sat among the glaring men, rubbing his wrists. Newly released from his bonds, he created a mahogany-paneled conference hall and marble table at which they all sat, ridiculously bearded and evil-smelling, and greedy men, eyes bent upon their treasure. The way to settle it, said Mark at last, is for each of you to have a certain hours and certain days of appointments with me. I'll treat you all equally. I'll be city property, free to come and go. That's fair enough. As for Saul here, he's on probation. When he's proved he can be a civil person once more, I'll give him a treatment or two. Until that time I'll have nothing more to do with him. The other exiles grinned at Saul. I'm sorry, Saul said. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm all right now. We'll see, said Mark. Let's give ourselves a month, shall we? The other men grinned at Saul. Saul said nothing. He sat staring at the floor of the cave. Let's see now, said Mark. On Mondays, it's your day, Smith. Smith nodded. On Tuesdays, I'll take Peter there for an hour or so. Peter nodded. On Wednesdays, I'll finish up with Johnson, Holtzman, and Jim here. The last 3 men looked at each other. The rest of the week, I'll be left strictly alone. Do you hear? Mark told them. A little should be better than nothing. If you don't obey, I won't perform at all. Maybe we'll make you perform, said Johnson. He caught the other men's eye. Look, we're 5 against 1. We can make him do anything we want. If we cooperate, we've got a great thing here. Don't be idiots, Mark warned the other men. Let me talk, said Johnson. He's telling us that he'll do. Why don't we tell him? Are we bigger than him or not? And him threatening not to perform, well, just let me get a silver of wood under his toenails and maybe burn his fingers a bit with a steel file, and we'll see if he performs. Why shouldn't we have performances, I want to know, every night in the week? Don't listen to him, said Mark. He's crazy. He can't be depended on. You know what he'll do, don't you? He'll get you all off guard, one by one, and kill you. Yes, kill all of you, so that when he's done, he'll be all alone, just him and me. That's his sort. The listening men blinked, first at Mark, then at Johnson. For that matter, observed Mark, none of you can trust the others. This is a fool's conference. The minute your back is turned, one of the other men will murder you. I dare say at the week's end you'll all be dead or dying. A cold wind blew into the mahogany room. It began to dissolve and became a cave once more. Mark was tired of his joke. The marble table splashed and rained and evaporated. The men gazed suspiciously at each other with little bite animal eyes. What was spoken was true. They saw each other in the days to come, surprising one another, killing, until that last lucky one remained to enjoy the intellectual treasure that walked among them. Saul watched them and felt alone and disquieted. Once you had made a mistake, how hard to admit your wrongness, to go back, start fresh. They were all wrong. They had been lost a long time. Now they were worse than lost. And to make matters very bad, said Mark at last, one of you has a gun. All the rest of you have only knives, but one of you, I know, has a gun. Everybody jumped up. Search, said Mark. Find the one with a gun, or you're all dead. That did it. The men plunged wildly about, not knowing whom to search first. Their hands grappled. They cried out, and Mark watched them in contempt. Johnson fell back, feeling in his jacket. All right, he said. We might as well have it over now. Here, you, Smith. And he shot Smith through the chest. Smith fell. The other men yelled. They broke apart. Johnson aimed and fired twice more. Stop, cried Mark. New York soared up around him out of rock and cave and sky. Sun glinted on high towers. The elevated thundered. Tugs blew in the harbor. The green lady stared across the bay, a torch in her hand. Look, you fool, said Mark. Central Park broke out. Constellations of spring blossoms. The wind flew brush-cut lawn smells over them in a wave. And in the visitor of New York, bewildered, the men stumbled. Johnson fired his gun 3 times more. Saul ran forward. He crashed against Johnson, bore him down, wrenched the gun away. It fired again. The men stopped smiling. They stood. Saul lay across Johnson. They ceased struggling. There was a terrible silence. The men stood watching. New York sank down into the sea with a hissing, bubbling, sighing, With a cry of ruined metal and old time, the great structures leaned, warped, flowed, collapsed. Mark stood among the buildings, thin like a building. A neat red hole drilled into his chest. Wordless, he fell. Saul lay staring up at the men at the body. He got up, the gun in his hand. Johnson did not move, was afraid to move. They all shut their eyes and opened them again, thinking that by so doing they might reanimate the man who lay before them. The cave was cold. Saul stood and looked remotely at the gun in his hand. He took it and threw it far out over the valley and did not watch it fall. They looked down at the body as if they could not believe it. Saul bent down and took hold of the limp hand. "Leonard," he said softly. "Leonard?" He shook the hand. "Leonard." Leonard Mark did not move. His eyes were shut. His chest had ceased going up and down. He was getting cold. Saul got up. "We've killed him," he said, not looking at the men. His mouth was smiling with a raw liquor now. "The only one we didn't want to kill, we killed." He put his shaking hand to his eyes. The other men stood waiting. "Get a spade," said Saul. "Bury him." He turned away. "I have nothing to do with you." Somebody walked off to find a spade. Saul was so weak he couldn't move. His legs were grown into the earth. With roots feeding deep of loneliness and fear in the cold of the night, the fire had almost died out. And now there was only the double moonlight riding over the blue mountains. There was the sound of someone digging the earth with a spade. "We don't need him anyhow," said somebody much too loudly. The sound of digging went on. Saul walked off slowly and let himself slide down the side of the dark tree until he reached and was sitting blankly on the sand, his hands blindly in his lap. Sleep, he thought. Well, I'll go to sleep now. We have that much anyway. Go to sleep and try to dream of New York and all the rest. He closed his eyes wearily, the blood gathering in his nose and mouth and in his quivering eyes. "How did he do it?" he asked in a tired voice. His head fell forward on his chest. "How did he bring New York up here and make us walk around in it? Let's try. It shouldn't be too hard. Think of New York," he whispered, falling into sleep. "New York and Central Park and then Illinois and the spring apple blossoms and green grass." It didn't work. It wasn't the same. New York was gone, and nothing he could do would bring it back. He would rise every morning and walk on the dead sea looking for it, walking forever around Mars looking for it, and never find it, and finally lie, too tired to walk, trying to find New York in his head but not finding it. The last thing he heard before he slept was the spade rising and falling and digging a hole into which, with a tremendous crash of metal and golden mist and odor and color and sound, New York collapsed, fell, and was buried. He cried all night into his sleep. The concrete mixer. He listened to the dry grass rustle of the old witches' voices beneath the open window. "Edel the coward, Edel the refuser, Edel who will not wage the glorious war of Mars against Earth. Speak on, witches," he cried. The voices dropped to a murmur like that of water in the long canals under the Martian sky. "Edel, the father of a son who must grow up in the shadow of this horrid knowledge," said the old wrinkled women. They knocked their sly-eyed heads gently together. "Shame, shame," his wife was crying on the other side of the room. Her tears were as rain, numerous and cool on the tiles. "Oh, Edel, how can you think this way?" Edel laid aside his metal book, which at his beckoning had been singing him a story all morning from its thin golden wired frame. "I've tried to explain," he said. "This is a foolish thing. Mars invading Earth. We'll be destroyed utterly. Outside, a banking, crashing boom, a surge of brass, a drum, a cry, marching feet, pennants and songs. Through the stone streets, the army, wire weapons to shoulders, stamped. Children skipped after. Old women waved dirty flags. I shall remain on Mars and read a book," said Edel. A blunt knock on the door. Tyla answered. Father-in-law stormed in. "What's this I hear about my son-in-law? A traitor?" "Yes, father. You're not fighting in the Martian army?" "No, father." "Gods," the old father turned red. "A plague on your name. You'll be shot." "Shoot me then. Have it over." "Who ever heard of a Martian not invading? Who?" "Nobody. It is, I admit, quite incredible." "Incredible," husked the witch voices under the window. "Father, can't you reason with him?" demanded Tyla. "Reason with a dung heap." cried father, eyes blazing. He came and stood over Edel. Bands playing, a fine day, women weeping, children jumping, everything right, men marching bravely, and you sit here. Oh, shame! Shame, sobbed the faraway voices in the hedge. Get the devil out of my house with your insane chatter, said Edel, exploding. Take your medals and your drums and run. He shoved father-in-law past the screaming wife, only to have the door thrown wide at the moment As a military detail entered, a voice shouted, "Edelvir?" "Yes." "You are under arrest. Goodbye, my dear wife. I am off to the wars with 3 fools," shouted Edel, dragged through the door by the men in the bronze mesh. "Goodbye, goodbye," said the town witches, fading away. The cell was neat and clean. Without a book, Edel was nervous. He gripped the bars and watched the rockets shoot up into the night air. The stars were cold and numerous. They seemed to scatter with every rocket blasted up among them. "Fools," whispered Edel, "fools." The cell door opened. One man with a kind of vehicle entered, full of books. Books here, there, everywhere in the chambers of the vehicle. Behind him the military assigner loomed. "Edelvire, we want to know why you had these illegal Earth books in your house. These copies of wonder stories, scientific tales, fantastic stories. Explain." The man gripped Edel's wrist. Edel shook him free. "If you're going to shoot me, shoot me. That literature from Earth is the very reason why I won't try to invade them. It's the reason why your invasion will fail." "How so?" The assigner scowled and turned to the yellowed magazines. "Pick any copy," said Edel. "Any one at all. 9 out of 10 stories in the years 1929, 30 to 50, Earth calendar, have every Martian invasion successfully invading Earth." "Ah," the assigner smiled, nodded. "And then," said Edel, fading, "that's treason, owning such literature. So be it if you wish, but let me draw a few conclusions. Invariably, each invasion is thwarted by a young man, usually lean, usually Irish, usually alone, named Mick or Rick or Jick or Bannon, or who destroys the Martians." "You don't believe that?" "No, I don't believe Earthmen can actually do that. No, but they have a background, understand, the signer, of generations of children reading such a fiction, absorbing it. They have nothing but literature of invasions successfully thwarted. Can you say the same of Martian literature?" "Well, no. I guess not. You know not. We never wrote stories of such a fantastic nature. Now we rebel, we attack, and we shall die." "I don't see your reasoning on that. Where does this tie in with the magazine stories?" "Morale. A big thing. The Earthmen know they can't fail. It is in them like blood beating in their veins. They cannot fail. They will repel each invasion, no matter how well organized. Their youth of reading just such fiction as this has given them a faith we cannot equal. We Martians, we are uncertain. We know we might fail. Our morale is low in spite of the banged drums and tooted horns. I won't listen to this treason," cried the assigner. "This fiction will be burned, as you will be, within the next 10 minutes. You have a choice, Edelvire. Join the Legion of War or burn. It is a choice of deaths. I choose to burn. Men!" He was hustled out into the courtyard. There he saw his carefully hoarded reading matter set to torch. A special pit was prepared, with oil 5 feet deep in it. This, with a great thunder, was set afire. Into this, in a minute, he would be pushed. On the far side of the courtyard, in a shadow, he noticed the solemn figure of his son standing alone, his great yellow eyes luminous with sorrow and fear. He did not put out his hand or speak, but only looked at his father like some dying animal, a wordless animal seeking rescue. Edel looked at the flaming pit. He felt the rough hands seize him, strip him, push him forward into the hot perimeter of death. Only then did Edel swallow and cry out, "Wait!" The assigner's face, bright with orange fire, pushed forward in the trembling air. "What is it?" "I will join the Legion of War," replied Edel. "Good, release him." The hands fell away. As he turned, he saw his son standing far across the court, waiting. His son was not smiling, only waiting. In the sky a bronze rocket leaped across the stars, ablaze. "And now we bid goodbye to these stalwart warriors," said the assigner. The band thumped, and the wind blew a fine, sweet rain of tears gently upon the sweating army. The children cavorted. In the chaos, Edel saw his wife weeping with pride, his son solemn and silent at her side. They marched into the ship, everybody laughing and brave. They buckled themselves into their spider webs. All through the tense ship, the spider webs were filled with lounging, lazy men. They chewed on bits of food and waited. A great lid slammed shut. A valve hissed. "Off to earth and destruction," whispered Edel. "What?" asked someone. "Off to glorious victory," said Edel, grimacing. The rocket jumped. Space, thought Edel. We are banging across black inks and pink lights of space in a brass kettle. Here we are, a celebratory rocket, heaved out to fill the Earthmen's eyes with fear flames as they look up to the sky. What is it like, being far, far away from your home, your wife, your child, here and now? He tried to analyze his trembling. It was like tying your most secret inward working organs to Mars and then jumping out 1,000,000 miles. Your heart was still on Mars, pumping, glowing. Your brain was still on Mars, thinking, crenulated like an abandoned torch. Your stomach was still on Mars, somnolent, trying to digest the final dinner. Your lungs were still in the cool blue wine air of Mars. a soft folded bellows screaming for release, one part of you longing for the rest. For here you were, a meshless, cogless, automated, a body upon which officials had performed clinical autopsy and left all of you that counted back upon the empty season strewn over the darkened hills. Here you were, bottle empty, fireless, chill, with only your hands to give death to earthmen. A pair of hands is all you are now, he thought in cold remoteness. Here you lie in the tremendous web. Others are about you, but they are whole hearts and bodies. But all of you that lives is back there, walking with the desolate seas and evening winds. This thing here, this cold clay thing, is already dead. Attack stations, attack! Ready, 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 up! Out of the webs, quick! Edel moved. Somewhere before him his two cold hands moved. How swift it has all been, he thought. A year ago, one Earth rocket reached Mars. Our scientists, with their incredible telepathic ability, copied it. Our workers, with their incredible plants, reproduced it 100-fold. No other Earth ship has reached Mars since then, and yet we know their language perfectly, all of us. We know their culture, their logic, and we shall pay the price of our brilliance. Guns on the ready, right, sights. Reading by miles, 10,000, attack. A humming silence, a silence of insects throbbing in the walls of the rocket, the insects singing of tiny bobbins and levers and whirls of wheels, silence of waiting men, silence of glands emitting the slow, steady pulse of sweat under arm, on brow, under staring pale eyes. Wait, ready! Adol hung on to his sanity with his fingernails, hung hard and long. Silence, 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 waiting. Tee, what's that? Earth radio. Cut them in. They're trying to reach us. Call us. Cut them in. Here they are. Listen. Calling Martian invasion fleet. The listening silence, the insect hum pulling back to let the sharp Earth voice crack in upon the rooms of waiting men. This is Earth calling. This is William Summers, president of the Association of United American Producers. Edel held tight to his station, bent forward, eyes shut. Welcome to Earth. What? The men in the rocket roared. What did he say? Yes, welcome to Earth. It's a trick. Edel shivered, opened his eyes to stare in bewilderment at the unseen voice from the ceiling source. Welcome, welcome to green industrial Earth. Declared the friendly voice. With open arms, we welcome you. To turn a bloody invasion into a time of friendships that will last through all of time. A trick! Hush, listen. Many years ago, we of Earth renounced war, destroyed our atom bombs. Now, unprepared as we are, there is nothing for us but to welcome you. The planet is yours. We ask only mercy from your good and merciful invaders. It can't be true, a voice whispered. It must be a trick. Land and be welcomed, all of you, said Mr. William Summers of Earth. Land anywhere. Earth is yours. We are all brothers. Edel began to laugh. Everyone in the room turned to see him. The other Martians blinked. He's gone mad. He did not stop laughing until they hit him. The tiny fat man in the center of the hot rocket tarmac at Greentown, California, jerked out a clean white handkerchief and touched it to his wet brow. He squinted blindly from the fresh plank platform. At the 50,000 people restrained behind a fence of policemen, arm to arm, everybody looked at the sky. There they are! A gasp. No, just seagulls, a disappointed grumble. I'm beginning to think it would have been better to have declared war on them, whispered the mayor. Then we could all go home. Shh, said his wife. There, the crowd roared. Out of the sun came the Martian rockets. Everybody ready? The mayor glanced nervously about. Yes, sir, said Miss California, 1965. Yes, said Miss America 1940, who had come rushing up at the last minute as a substitute for Miss America 1966, who was ill at home. Yes, sir, said Mr. Biggest Grapefruit of San Fernando Valley, 1956, eagerly. Ready, band? The band poised its breast like so many guns. Ready. The rockets landed. Go. The band played California Here I Come 10 times. From noon until 1 o'clock, the mayor made a speech, shaking his hands in direction of the silent, apprehensive rockets. At 1:15, the seals of the rockets opened. The band played "Oh You Golden State" 3 times. Edel and 50 other Martians leaped out, guns at the ready. The mayor ran forward with the key to the earth in his hands. The band played "Santa Claus is Coming to Town," and the full chorus of singers imported for the Long Beach, saying different words to it, something about Martians are coming to town. Seeing no weapons about, the Martians relaxed but kept their guns out. From 1:30 until 2:15, the mayor made the same speech over for the benefit of the Martians. At 2:30, Miss America of 1940 volunteered to kiss all the Martians as they lined up. At 2:30, in 10 seconds, the band played "How Do You Do, Everybody" to cover up the confusion caused by Miss America's suggestion. At 2:35, Mr. Biggest Grapefruit presented the Martians with a 2-ton truck full of grapefruit. At 2:37, the mayor gave them all free passes to the elite and majestic theaters combining this gesture with another speech which lasted until after 3. The band played and the 50,000 people sang, "For they are jolly good fellows." It was over at 4 o'clock. Edel sat down in the shadow of the rocket, 2 of his fellows with him. "So this is Earth." "I say kill the filthy rats," said one Martian. "I don't trust them, they're sneaky. What's their motive for treating us this way?" He held up a box of something that rustled. "What's this box they gave me?" "A sample," they said. He read the label. "Blix, the new sudsy soap." The crowd had drifted about, was mingling with the Martians like a carnival throng. Everywhere was the buzzing murmur of people fingering the rockets, asking questions. Edel was cold. He was beginning to tremble even more now. "Don't you feel it?" he whispered. "The tenseness, the evilness of all this? Something's going to happen to us. They have some plan, something subtle and horrible. They're going to do something to us. I know." "I say kill every one of them." "How can you kill people who call you pal and buddy?" asked another Martian. Adel shook his head. "They're sincere, and yet I feel as if we were in a big acid vat, melting away. I'm frightened." He put out his mind to touch the crowd. "Yes, they're really friendly. Hail fellows well met," one of their terms. One huge mass of common men, loving dogs and cats and Martians equally, and yet the band played "Roll Out the Barrel." Free beer was being distributed through the courtesy of Hagenbach Beer, Fresno, California. The sickness came. The men poured out fountains of slush from their mouths. The sound of sickness filled the land. Gagging, Edel sat beneath a sycamore tree. A plot, a horrible plot," he groaned, holding his stomach. "What did you eat?" The assigner stood over him. "Something that they called popcorn," groaned Edel. And some sort of long meat on a bun, and some yellow liquid in an iced vat, and some sort of fish, and something called pastrami," sighed Edel, eyelids flickering. The moans of the Martian invaders sounded all about. "Kill the plotting snakes," somebody cried weakly. "Hold on," said the assigner. "It's merely hospitality." They overdid it. "Up on your feet now, men, into the town. We've got to place small garrisons of men about to make sure all is well. Other ships are landing in other cities. We've our job to do here." The men gained to their feet and stood blinking stupidly about. "Forward, march! 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The white shores of the little town lay dreaming in the shimmering heat. Heat emanated from everything: poles, concrete, metal, awnings, roofs, tar paper, everything. The sound of Martian feet sounded on the asphalt. "Careful, men," whispered the assigner. They walked past a beauty shop. From inside a furtive giggle. "Look!" A coppery head bobbed and vanished like a doll in the window. A blue eye glinted and winked at a keyhole. "It's a plot," whispered Edel. "A plot, I tell you." The odors of perfume were fanned out on the summer air. By the whirling vents and grottos where the women hid like undersea creatures under electric cones, their hair curled into wild whirls and peaks, their eyes shrewd and glassy, animal inside, their mouths painted a neon red. Fans were whirling, the perfumed wind issuing upon the stillness, moving among green trees, creeping among the amazed Martians. "For God's sake," screamed Edel, his nerves suddenly breaking loose. "Let's get on our rockets, go home. They'll get us. Those horrid things in there, see them? Those evil undersea things, these women in their cool little caverns of artificial rock. Shut up. Look at them in there," he thought, drifting their dresses like cool green gills over their pillar legs. He shouted, "Someone shut his mouth. They'll rush out on us, hurling chocolate boxes and copies of Klieg Love and Holly Picture, shrieking with their red, greasy mouths, inundate us with banalities, destroy our sensibilities. Look at them being electrocuted by devices, their voices like hums and chants and murmurs. Don't you dare go in there?" "Why not?" asked the other Martians. "They'll fry you, bleach you, change you, crack you, flake you away until you're nothing but a husband, a working man, the one with the money who pays so they can come sit in there, devouring their evil chocolates. Do you think you could control them?" "Yes, by the gods." From a distance a voice drifted, a high and shrill voice, a woman's voice, saying, "Ain't that middle one there cute? Martians ain't so bad after all. Gee, they're just men," said another, fading. "Hey there, yoo-hoo, Martians, hey!" Yelling, Edel ran. He sat in a park and trembled steadily. He remembered what he'd seen, looking up at the dark night sky. He felt so far from home, so deserted. Even now, as he sat among the still trees in the distance, he could see Martian warriors walking the streets with the Earth women, vanishing into the phantom darknesses of the little emotion palaces to hear the ghastly sounds of white things moving on gray screens, with little frizz-haired women beside them, wads of gelatinous gum working in their jaws, other wads under the seats, hardening, with fossil imprints of the women's tiny cat teeth forever embedded in them. The Cave of Winds, the cinema. "Hello!" He jerked his head in terror. A woman sat on the bench beside him, chewing gum lazily. "Don't run off, I don't bite," she said. "Oh," he said. "Like to go to the pictures?" She said. "No." "Oh, come on," she said. "Everybody else is." "No," he said. Is that all you do in this world?" "All? Ain't that enough?" Her blue eyes widened suspiciously. "What do you want me to do? Sit home, read a book? Ha ha, that's rich." Edel stared at her a moment before asking a question. "Do you do anything else?" he asked. "Ride in cars? You got a car? You ought to get you a big, new, convertible Podler 6. Gee, they're fancy. Any man with a Podler 6 can go out with any gal, you bet," she said, blinking at him. "I bet you got all kinds of money. You come from Mars and all. I bet if you really wanted to, you could get a Podler 6 and travel everywhere. To the show, maybe? What's wrong with that?" "Nothing. Nothing." "You know what you talk like, mister?" she said. "A communist." "Yes, sir, that's the kind of talk nobody stands for. By gosh, nothing's wrong with our little old system. We was good enough to let you Martians invade, and we never raised even our bitty finger, did we?" "That's what I've been trying to understand," said Edel. "Why did you let us?" "Because we're big-hearted, mister, that's why. Just remember that, big-hearted." She walked off to look at someone else. Gathering courage to himself, Edel began to write a letter to his wife, moving the pen carefully over the paper on his knee. "Dear Tyla," but again he was interrupted. A small little girl of an old woman, with a pale, round, wrinkled little face, shook her tambourine in front of his nose, forcing him to glance up. "Brother," she cried, eyes blazing, "have you been saved? Am I in danger?" Edel dropped his pen, jumping. "Terrible danger," she wailed, clanking her tambourine, gazing at the sky. "You need to be saved, brother, in the worst way." "I'm inclined to agree," he said, trembling. "We saved lots already today. I saved 3 myself of you Mars people. Ain't that nice?" She grinned at him. "I guess so." She was acutely suspicious. She leaned forward with her secret whisper. "Brother," she wanted to know, "you been baptized?" "I don't know," he whispered back. "You don't know?" she cried, flinging up hand and tambourine. "Is it like being shot?" he asked. "Brother," she said, "you are in a bad and sinful condition. I blame it on your ignorant bringing up. I bet those schools on Mars are terrible. Don't teach you no truth at all. Just a pack of made-up lies. Brother, you gotta be baptized if you want to be happy." "Will it make me happy even in this world here?" he said. "Don't ask for everything on your platter," she said. "Be satisfied with a wrinkled pea, for another's world we're all going to be that's better than this one." "I know that world," he said. "It's peaceful," she said. "Yes." "There's quiet," she said. "Yes." "There's milk and honey flowing." "Why, yes," he said, "and everybody's laughing. I can see it now," he said. "A better world," she said. "Far better," he said. "Yes, Mars is a great planet." "Mister," she said, tightening up and almost flinging the tambourine in his face, "you been joking with me?" "Why, no." He was embarrassed and bewildered. "I thought you were talking about—" "Not about mean old nasty Mars, I tell you, mister. It's your type that's going to boil for years and suffer and break out in black pimples and be tortured. I must admit Earth isn't very nice. You've described it beautifully." "Mister, you're fuming me again," she cried angrily. "You're funning me again," she cried angrily. "No, no, please, I plead ignorance." "Well," she said, "you're a heathen. Heathens are improper. Here's a paper. Come to this address tomorrow night and be baptized and be happy. We shout and we stomps and we talk in voices, so if you want to hear our cornet, all brass band, you come, won't you now?" "I'll try," he said hesitantly. Down the street she went, patting her tambourine, singing at the top of her voice, "Happy am I, I'm always happy." Dazed, Edel returned to his letter. "Dear Tyla, to think that in my naivete I imagined that the Earthmen would have to counterattack with guns and bombs. No, no, I was sadly wrong. There is no Rick or Mick or Jick or Bannon. Those clever fellows who save worlds, no. They are blonde robots with pink rubber bodies, real but somehow unreal, alive but somehow automatic in all responses, living in caves all their lives. Their derrieres are incredible in girth. Their eyes are fixed and motionless from an endless time of staring at picture screens. The only muscles they have occur in their jaws from their ceaseless chewing of gum. And it is not only these, my dear Tyla, but the entire civilization into which we have been dropped like a shovelful of seeds into a large concrete mixer. Nothing of us will survive. We will be killed not by gun but by the glad hand. We will be destroyed not by the rocket but by the automobile." Somebody screamed. A crash, another crash, silence. Edel leaped up from his letter. Outside on the street, 2 cars had crashed, one full of Martians, another with Earthmen. Edel returned to his letter. Dear, dear Tyla, a few statistics, if you will allow. 45,000 people killed every year in this continent of America, made into jelly right in the can, as it were, in the automobiles. Red blood jelly with the white marrow bones like sudden thoughts, ridiculous horror thoughts, transfixed in the immutable jelly. The cars whirl up in tight, neat sardine rolls, all sauce, all silence. Blood manure for green buzzing summer flies all over the highways, faces made into Halloween masks by sudden stops. Halloween is one of their holidays. I think they worship the automobile on that night, something to do with death anyway. You look out your window and see two people lying atop each other in a friendly fashion who a moment ago had never met before, dead. I foresee our army mashed, diseased, trapped in cinemas by witches and gum. Sometime in the next day I shall try to escape back to Mars before it is too late. Somewhere on Earth tonight, my Tyla, there is a man with a lever which, when he pulls it, will save the world. The man is now unemployed. His switch gathers dust. He himself plays pinochle. The women of this evil planet are drowning us in a tide of banal sentimentality, misplaced romance, and one last fling before the makers of glycerin boil them down for usage. Good night, Tyler. Wish me well, for I shall probably die trying to escape. My love to our child. Weeping silently, he folded the letter and reminded himself to mail it later at the rocket post. He left the park. What was there to do? Escape? But how? Return to the post late tonight, steal one of the rockets alone, and go back to Mars? Would it be possible? He shook his head. He was much too confused. All that he really knew was that if he stayed here, he would soon be the property of a lot of things that buzzed and snorted and hissed and gave off fumes and stenches. In 6 months he would be the owner of a large pink trained ulcer, a blood pressure of algebraic dimensions, a myopia this side of blindness, and nightmares as deep as oceans, and infested with impossible lengths of dream intestines, through which he must violently force his way each night. No, no. He looked at the haunted faces of Earthmen drifting violently along in their mechanical death boxes. Soon, yes, very soon, they would invent an auto with 6 silver handles on it. Hey there, an auto horn. A large, long hearse of a car, black and ominous, pulled to the curb. A man leaned out. You a Martian? Yes. Just the man I gotta see. Hop in quick, the chance of a lifetime. Hop in, take you a real nice joint where we can talk. Come on, don't stand there. As if hypnotized, Edel opened the door of the car and got in. They drove off. What'll be, Evie? What about a Manhattan? 2 Manhattans. Waiter. Okay, Evie, this is my treat. This is on me and Big Studios. Don't even touch your wallet. Pleased to meet you, Evie. My name's R.R. Van Plank. Maybe you heard me? No? Well, shake anyhow. Edel felt his hand massaged and dropped. They were in a dark hall with music and waiters drifting about. 2 drinks were set down, and it all happened so swiftly. Now Van Plank, hands crossed on his chest, was surveying his Martian discovery. What I want for you, Evie, is this. It's the most magnanimous idea I've ever got in my life. I don't know how it came to me, just in a flash. I was sitting home tonight, and I thought to myself, my God, what a picture it would make. Invasion of Earth by Mars. What I gotta do? I gotta find an advisor for the film. So I climbed in my car and found you, and here we are. Drink up. Here's to your health and our future. Skull. But, said Edel, now I know you want money. We've got plenty of that. Besides, I got a little black book full of peaches I can lend you. I don't like most of your earth fruit, and you're a card, Mac, really. Well, here's how I get the picture in my mind. Listen, he leaned forward excitedly. We got a flash scene of the Martians at a big powwow. Drum and drums getting stewed on Mars. In the background are huge silver cities, but that's not the way Martian cities are. We've got to have color, kid, color. Let your pappy fix this. Anyway, there are all the Martians doing a dance around a fire. We don't dance around fires. In this film, you got a fire and you dance, declared Van Plank, his eyes shut, proud of his certainty. He nodded, dreaming it over on his tongue. Then we got a beautiful Martian woman, tall and blonde. Martian women are dark. Look, I don't see how we're going to be happy, Evie. By the way, son, you ought to change your name. What was it again? Edel. That's a woman's name. I'll give you a better one. Call you Joe. Okay, Joe. As I was saying, our Martian women are going to be blonde because, see, just because. Or else your papa won't be happy. You got any suggestions? I thought that, and another thing we got to have is a scene, very tasteful, where the Martian woman saves the whole ship of Martian men from dying when a meteor or something hits the ship. That'll make a wackaroo of a scene. You know, I'm glad I found you, Joe. You're going to have a good deal with us, I tell you. Edel reached out and held the man's wrist tight. Just a minute, there's something I want to ask you. Sure, Joe, shoot. Why are you being so nice to us? We invade your planet and you welcome us, everybody, like long-lost children. Why? They sure grow 'em green on Mars, don't they? You're a naive type guy. I can see that from way over here. Mac, look at it this way. We're all little people, ain't we? He waved a small tan hand garnished with emeralds. We're all common as dirt, ain't we? Well, here on Earth, we're proud of that. This is the century of the common man, Bill. We're proud of that we're small. Billy, we're looking at a planet full of Saurians. Yes, sir. A great big fat family of friendly Saurians. Everybody's loving everybody. We understand you Martians, Joe, and we know why you invaded Earth. We know how lonely you were up on that cold little planet Mars, how you envied us, our cities, our civilization is much older than yours. Please, Joe, you make me unhappy when you interrupt. Let me finish my theory, and then you talk all you want. As I was saying, you was lonely up there, and down you came to see our cities and our women and all, and we welcomed you in because you're our brothers, common men like all of us, and then as a kind of side incident, Roscoe, there's a certain little small profit to be had from this invasion. I mean, for instance, this picture I planned, which will net us neat $1 billion, I bet. Next week we start putting out a special Martian doll at $30 a toe. Think of the millions there. I also got a contract to make a Martian game to sell for $5. There's all sort of angles. I see, said Elle, drawing back. And then, of course, there's that whole nice new market. Think of all the depilatories and gum and shoe shine we can sell to you Martians. Wait, another question. Shoot. What's your first name? What's the RR stand for? Richard Robert. Ethel looked at the ceiling. Do they sometimes, perhaps on occasion, once in a while by accident, call you Rick? How'd you guess, Mac? Rick, sure. Ethel sighed and began to laugh and laugh. He put out his hand. So you're Rick. Rick, so you're Rick. What's the joke, laughing boy? Let Papa in. You wouldn't understand a private joke. Ha ha. Tears ran down his cheeks and into his open mouth. He pounded the table again and again. So you're Rick. How different. How funny. No bulging muscles, no lean jaw, no gun. Only a wallet full of money and an emerald ring as big as a medal. Hey, watch the language. I may not be an Apollo, but shake hands, Rick. I've wanted to meet you. You're the man who will conquer Mars with cocktail shakers and foot arches and poker chips and riding crops and leather boots and checkered caps and rum Collinses. I'm only a humble businessman, said Van Flank, eyes slyly down. I do my work and take my humble little piece of money pie. But as I was saying, Mort, I've been thinking on the market of Mars for Uncle Wiggily games and Dick Tracy comics all new. A big wide field, never even heard of cartoons, right? Right? So we just toss a great big bunch of stuff on the Martians' heads. They'll fight for it, kid, fight. Who wouldn't for perfumes and Paris dresses and Oshkosh overalls? Eh? And nice new shoes? We don't wear shoes. What have I got here? R.R. asked of the ceiling. A planet full of Okies? Okay, look, Joe. We'll take care of that. We'll shame everyone into wearing shoes, and we'll sell them for the polish. Oh. He slapped Edel's arm. Is it a deal? Will you be technical director on my film? You'll get $200 a week to start. A $500 top. What do you say? I'm sick, said Edel. He had drunk the Manhattan and was now turning blue. Say, I'm sorry, I didn't know it would do that to you. Let's get some fresh air. In the open air, Edel felt better. He swayed. So that's why Earth took us in? Sure, son. Any time an Earthman can turn an honest dollar, watch him steam. The customer is always right. No hard feelings. Here's my card. Be at the studio in Hollywood tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. They'll show you your office. I'll arrive at 11 and see you then. Be sure you get there at 9 o'clock. It's a strict rule. Why? Gallagher, you're a queer oyster, but I love you. Good night. Happy invasion. The car drove off. Edel blinked after it, incredulous. Then, rubbing his brow with the palm of his hand, he walked slowly along the street toward the rocket port. Well, what are you going to do? He asked himself aloud. The rockets lay gleaming in the moonlight, silent. From the city came the sounds of distant revelry. In the medical compound, an extreme case of nervous breakdown was being tended to. A young Martian who by his screams had seen too much, drunk too much, heard too many songs on the little red and yellow boxes in the drinking places, had been chased around innumerable tables by a large elephant-like woman. He kept murmuring, can't breathe, crushed, trapped. The sobbing faded. Edel came out of the shadows and moved on across a wide avenue toward the ships. Far over, he could see the guards lying about drunkenly. He listened. From the vast city came the faint sounds of cars and music and sirens, and he imagined other sounds too. The insidious whir of malt machines stirring malts to fatten the warriors and make them lazy and forgetful. The narcotic voices of the cinema caverns, lulling and lulling the Martians fast into a slumber through which all of their remaining lives they would sleepwalk. A year from now, how many Martians dead of cirrhosis of the liver, bad kidneys, high blood pressure, suicide? He stood in the middle of the empty avenue. 2 blocks away, a car was rushing toward them. He had a choice. Stay here, take the studio job, report for work each morning as advisor on a picture, and in time come to agree with the producer that yes, indeed, there were massacres on Mars. Yes, the women were all tall and blonde. Yes, there were tribal dances and sacrifices. Yes, yes, yes. Or he could walk over and get into a rocket ship and alone return to Mars. Well, what about next year, he said. The Blue Canal nightclub brought to Mars. The ancient city gambling casino, built right inside. Yes, right inside a real Martian ancient city. Neons, racing forums blowing in the old cities. Picnic lunches in the ancestral graveyards, all of it. But not quite yet. In a few days he could be home. Tyler would be waiting with their son, and then for the last few years of gentle life he might sit with his wife in the blowing weather on the edge of the canal, reading his good, gentle books, sipping a rare and light wine, talking and living out the short time until the neon bewilderment fell from the sky, and then perhaps he and Tyler might move into the Blue Mountain and hide for another year or two until the tourists came to snap their cameras and say how quaint things were. He knew just what he would say to Tyler. War is a bad thing, but peace can be a living horror. He stood in the middle of the wide avenue. Turning, it was with no surprise that he saw a car bearing down upon him, a car full of screaming children. Those boys and girls, none older than 16, were swerving and ricocheting their open-top car down the avenue. He saw them point at him and yell. He heard the motor roar louder. The car sped toward at 60 miles an hour. He began to run. Yes, he thought tiredly, with the car upon him. How strange, how sad. It sounds so much like a concrete mixer. Marionettes, Inc. They walked slowly down the street at about 10 in the evening, talking calmly. They were about 35, both eminently sober. But why so early, said Smith. Because, said Brayling, your first night out in 10 years and you go home at 10 o'clock? Nerves, I suppose. What I wonder is how you ever managed it. I've been trying to get you out for 10 years for a quiet drink, and now one night you insist on turning in early. Mustn't crowd my luck, said Brayling. What did you do, sleeping powder in your wife's coffee? No, that would be unethical. You'll see soon enough. They turned a corner. Honestly, Brayling, I hate to say this, but you have been patient with her. You may not admit it to me, but marriage has been awful for you, hasn't it? I wouldn't say that. It's not around anyway, here and there. How she got you to marry her, that time back in 1979 when you were going to Rio? Dear Rio, I never did see it, after all my plans. And how she tore her clothes and rumpled her hair and threatened to call the police unless you managed to marry her. She was always nervous, Smith, understand. It was more than unfair. You didn't love her. You told her as much, didn't you? I recall that I was quite firm on the subject, but you married her anyhow. I had my business to think of, as well as my mother and father. A thing like that would have killed them. Ah, it's been 10 years. Yes, said Brayling, his gray eyes steady, but I think perhaps it might change now. I think what I've waited for has come about. Look here. He drew forth a long blue ticket. Why, it's a ticket for Rio, on the Thursday rocket. Yes, I'm finally going to make it. But how wonderful, you do deserve it. But won't she object, cause trouble? Brayling smiled nervously. She won't know I'm gone. I'll be back in a month and no one the wiser, except you. Smith sighed. I wish I were going with you. Poor Smith, your marriage hasn't exactly been roses, has it? Not exactly. Married to a woman who overdoes it. I mean, after all, when you've been married 10 years, you don't expect a woman to sit in your lap for 2 hours every evening, call you at work 12 times a day, and talk baby talk. And it seems to me in the last month she's gotten worse. I wonder if perhaps she isn't a little simple-minded. Ah, Smith, always a conservative. Well, here's my house. Now, would you like to know my secret, how I made it out this evening? Will you really tell? Look up there, said Brayling. They both stared up to the dark air. In the window above them, on the second floor, a shade was raised. A man about 35 years old, with a touch of gray on either temples, sad gray eyes, and a small thin mustache, looked down at them. Why, that's you, cried Smith. Shh, not so loud, Brayling waved upward. The man in the window gestured significantly and vanished. I must be insane, said Smith. Hold on a moment. They waited. The street door of the apartment opened, and the tall, spare gentleman with the mustache and grieved eyes came out to meet them. Hello, Brayling, he said. Hello, Brayling, said Brayling. They were identical. Smith stared. Is this your twin brother? I never knew. No, said Brayling quietly. Bend close. Put your ear to Brayling 2's chest. Smith hesitated, then leaned forward to place his head against the uncomplaining ribs. Tick, 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 tick. Oh, no, it can't be. It is. Let me listen again. Smith staggered back and fluttered his eyelids, appalled. He reached out and touched the warm hands and the cheeks of the thing. Where'd you get him? Isn't he excellently fashioned? Incredible. Where? Give the man your card, Brayling 2. Brayling 2 did a magic trick and produced a white card. Marionettes, Inc. Duplicate self or friends. New humanoid plastic 1990 models, guaranteed against all physical wear, from 7,600 to our 15,000 deluxe model. No, said Smith. Yes, said Brayling. Naturally, said Brayling too. How long has this gone on? I've had him for a month. I keep him in the cellar in a toolbox. My wife never goes downstairs, and I have our only lock and key to that box. Tonight I said I wished to take a walk to buy a cigar. I went down cellar and took Brayling 2 out of his box and sent him back up to sit with my wife while I came out to see you, Smith. Wonderful. He even smells like you. Bond Street and Melacrinos. It may be splitting hairs, but I think it highly ethical. After all, what my wife wants most of all is me. This marionette is me to the hairiest detail. I've been home all evening. I shall be home with her for the next month. In the meantime, another gentleman will be in Rio after 10 years of waiting. When I return from Rio, Brayling 2 here will go back in his box. Smith thought that over a minute or two. Will he walk around without sustenance for a month? He finally asked. For 6 months if necessary, and he's built to do everything. Eat, sleep, perspire, everything. Natural as natural is. You take good care of my wife, won't you, Brayling 2? Your wife is rather nice, said Brayling 2. I've grown rather fond of her. Smith was beginning to tremble. How long has Marionette's Inc. been in business? Secretly, for 2 years. Is there a possibility? Smith took his friend's elbow earnestly. Can you tell me where I can get one, a robot, a marionette for myself? You will give me the address, won't you? Here you are. Smith took the card and turned it round and round. Thank you, he said. You don't know what this means. Just a little respite. A night or so. Once a month, even. My wife loves me so much she can't bear to have me gone an hour. I love her dearly, you know, but remember the old poem, Love will fly if held too lightly, love will die if held too tightly. I just want her to relax her grip a little bit. You're lucky at least that your wife loves you. Hates my problem. Not so easy. Oh, Nettie loves me madly. It will be my task to make her love me comfortably. Good luck to you, Smith. Do drop around while I'm in Rio. It will seem strange if you suddenly stop calling bye to my wife. You're to treat Brayling 2 here, just like me. Right, goodbye, and thank you. Smith went smiling down the street. Brayling and Brayling 2 turned and walked into the apartment hall. On the crosstown bus, Smith whistled softly, turning the white card in his fingers. Clients must be pledged to secrecy, for while an act is pending in Congress to legalize Marionette's Inc., it is still a felony if caught to use one. Well, said Smith, clients must have a mold made of their body and color index check of their eyes, lips, hair, skin, etc. Clients must expect to wait 2 months until their model is finished. Not so long, thought Smith. 2 months from now, my ribs will have the chance to mend from the crushing they've taken. 2 months from now, my hand will heal from being so constantly held. 2 months from now, my bruised underlip will begin to reshape itself. I don't mean to sound ungrateful. He flipped the card over. Marionette's Inc. is 2 years old, and has a fine record of satisfied customers behind it. Our motto is no strings attached. Address 43 South Wesley Drive. The bus pulled to a stop. He alighted, and while humming up the stairs, he thought, Nettie and I have $15,000 in our joint bank account. I'll just slip $8,000 out as a business venture, you might say. The marionette will probably pay back my money with interest in many ways. Nettie needn't know. He unlocked the door, and in a minute was in the bedroom. There lay Nettie, pale, huge, and piously asleep. Dear Nettie, he was almost overwhelmed with remorse at her innocent face there in the semi-darkness. If you were awake, you would smother me with kisses and coo in my ear. Really, you make me feel like a criminal. You have been such a good, loving wife. Sometimes it is impossible for me to believe you married me instead of that Bud Chapman you once liked. It seems to me the last month you have loved me more wildly than ever before. Tears came to his eyes. Suddenly he wished to kiss her, confess his love, tear up the card, forget the whole business. But as he moved to do this, his hand ached and his ribs cracked and groaned. He stopped with a pained look in his eyes and turned away. He moved out into the hall and through the dark rooms. Humming, he opened the kidney desk in the library and filched the bank book. Just take $8,000 is all, he said. No more than that. He stopped. Wait a minute. He reached the bank book frantically. Hold on here, he cried. $10,000 is missing. He leaped up. There's only $5,000 left. What's she done? What's Nettie done with it? More hats, more clothes, more perfumed, or wait, I know, she bought that little house on the Hudson she's been talking about for months without so much as a by our leave. He stormed into the bedroom, righteous and indignant. What did she mean, taking their money like this? He bent over her. Nettie, he shouted. Nettie, wake up. She did not stir. What have you done with my money? He bellowed. She stirred fitfully. The light from the street flushed over her beautiful cheeks. There was something about her. Her heart throbbed violently. His tongue dried. He shivered. His knees suddenly turned to water. He collapsed. "Nettie, Nettie," he cried. "What have you done with my money?" And then the horrid thought, and then the terror, and the loneliness engulfed him, and then the fever and disillusionment. For without desiring to do so, he bent forward, and yet forward again, until his fevered ear was resting firmly and irrevocably upon her round pink bosom. "Nettie!" he cried. As Smith walked away down the avenue in the night, Brayling and Brayling too turned in at the door to the apartment. "I'm glad he'll be happy too," said Brayling. "Yes," said Brayling too abstractedly. "Well, it's the cellar box for you be to." Brayling guided the other creature's elbow down the stairs to the cellar. "That's what I want to talk to you about," said Brayling too, as they reached the concrete floor and walked across it. "The cellar, I don't like it. I don't like that toolbox. I'll try and fix up something more comfortable. Marionettes are made to move, not lie still. How would you like to lie in a box most of the time?" "Well, you wouldn't like it at all. I keep running. There's no way to shut me off. I'm perfectly alive and I have feelings. It'll only be a few days only. I'll be off to Rio and you won't have to stay in the box. You can live upstairs." Brayling too gestured irritably. "And when you come back from having a good time back in the box, I go." Brayling said, "They didn't tell me at the marionette shop that I'd get a difficult specimen." "That's a lot you don't know about us," said Brayling too. "We're pretty new, and we're sensitive. I hate the idea of you going off and laughing and lying in the sun in Rio while we're stuck here in the cold." "But I wanted that trip all my life," said Brayling quietly. He squinted his eyes and could see the sea and the mountains and the yellow sand. The sound of the waves was good to his inward mind. The sun was fine on his bared shoulders. The wine was most excellent. "I'll never get to go to Rio," said the other man. "Have you thought of that?" "No, And another thing, your wife. What about her?" asked Brayling, beginning to edge toward the door. "I've grown quite fond of her. I'm glad you're enjoying your employment." Brayling licked his lips nervously. "I'm afraid you don't understand. I think I'm in love with her." Brayling took another step and froze. "You're what?" "And I've been thinking," said Brayling too, "how nice it is in Rio, and how I'll never get there. And I've thought about your wife, and I think we could be very happy." "That's nice." Brayling strolled as casually as he could to the cellar door. "You won't mind waiting a moment, will you? I have to make a phone call." "To whom?" Brayling too frowned. "No one important. To Marionettes Incorporated? To tell them I've come to get me?" No, nothing like that." He tried to rush out the door. A metal firm grip seized his wrists. "Don't run. Take your hands off." "No." "Did my wife put you up to this?" "No." "Did she guess? Did she talk to you? Does she know?" "Is that it?" he screamed. A hand clapped over his mouth. "You'll never know, will you?" Brayling too smiled delicately. "You'll never know." Brayling struggled. "She must have guessed. She must have affected you." Brayling too said, "I'm going to put you in the box, lock it, and lose the key. Then I'll buy another Rio ticket for your wife." Now, wait a minute. Hold on. Don't be rash. Let's talk this over. Goodbye, Brayling." Brayling stiffened. "What do you mean, goodbye?" 10 minutes later, Miss Brayling awoke. She put her hand to her cheek. Someone had just kissed it. She shivered and looked up. "Why, you haven't done that in years," she murmured. "We'll see what we can do about that," someone said. The city. The city waited 20,000 years. The planet moved through space, and the flowers of the fields grew up and fell away, and the city still waited. And the rivers of the planet rose and waned and turned to dust. Still the city waited. The winds that had been young and wild grew old and serene. The clouds of the sky that had been ripped and torn were left alone to drift in the idle whiteness. Still the city waited. The city waited with its windows and its black obsidian walls and its sky towers and its unpenetrated turrets, with its untrod streets and its untouched doorknobs, and with not a scrap of paper or a fingerprint upon it. The city waited while the planet anchored in space, following its orbit about a blue-white sun, and the seasons passed from ice to fire and back to ice, and then green fields and yellow summer meadows. It was on a summer afternoon in the middle of 20,000th year that the city ceased waiting. In the sky a rocket appeared. The rocket soared over, turned, came back, and landed in the shale meadow 50 yards from the obsidian wall. There were booted footsteps in the thin grass and calling voices from men within the rocket to men without. "Ready? All right, then. Careful. Into the city. Jensen, you and Hutchinson patrol ahead. Keep a sharp eye." The city opened secret nostrils in its black walls, and a steady suction vent deep in the body of the city drew storms of air back through the channels, through thistle filters and dust collectors, to a fine and tremblingly delicate series of coils and webs which glowed with silver light. Again and again immense suctions occurred. Again and again the odors from the meadow were borne upon warm winds into the city. Fire odor, the scent of a fallen meteor, hot metal. A ship has come from another world, the brass smell, the dusty fire smell of burned powder, sulfur, and rocket brimstone. This information, stamped on tapes which sprocketed into slots, slid down through yellow cogs into further machines. Click, chack, chack, chack. The calculator made the sound of a metronome. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 men. An instantaneous typewriter inked this message on tape, which slithered and vanished. Clickety, click, chack, chack. The city awaited the soft tread of their rubberoid boots. The great city nostrils dilated again. The smell of butter in the city air from the stalking men, faintly the aura which wafted to the great nose, broke down into memories of milk, cheese, ice cream, butter, the effluvium of a dairy economy. Click, click. Careful, men. Jones, get your gun out. Don't be a fool. The city's dead. Why worry? You can't tell. Now at the barking talk the ears awoke. After centuries of listening to winds that blew small and faint, of hearing leaves strip from trees and grass grow softly in the time of melting snows, now the ears oiled themselves in a self-lubrication, drew taut, great drums upon which the heartbeat of the invaders might pummel and thud delicately as the tremor of a gnat's wing. The ears listened and the nose siphoned up great chambers of odor. The perspiration of frightened men arose. There were islands of sweat under the arms and sweat in their hands as they held their guns. The nose sifted and worried this air like a connoisseur busy with an ancient vintage. Chick, chick, chack, click. Information rotated down on parallel check tapes. Perspiration, chloride, such and such percent. Sulfates, so and so. Urea, nitrogen, ammonia, nitrogen, thus creatinine. Sugar, lactic acid. There, bells rang. Small totals jumped up. The nose whispered, expelling attested air. The great ears listened. I think we should go back to the rocket, Captain. I give the orders, Mr. Smith. Yes, sir. You up there, patrol, see anything? Nothing, sir. Looks like it's been dead for a long time. You see, Smith? Nothing to fear. I don't like it. I don't know why. You never feel like you've seen a place before? Well, this city's too familiar. Nonsense. This planetary system's billions of miles from Earth. We couldn't possibly have been here ever before. Ours is the only light-year rocket in existence. That's how I feel anyway, sir. I think we should get out. The footsteps faltered. There was only the sound of the intruder's breath on the still air. The ear heard and quickened. Rotors glided. Liquids glittered in small creaks through valves and blowers. A formula and a concoction, one followed another, moments later, responding to the summons of the ear and nose. Through the giant holes in the city's walls, a fresh vapor blew out over the invaders. Smell that, Smith? Ah, green grass. Ever smell anything better? By God, I'd just like to stand here and smell it. Invisible chlorophyll blew among the standing men. Ah, the footsteps continued. Nothing wrong with that, eh, Smith? Come on. The ear and nose relaxed a billionth of a fraction. The counter-move had succeeded. The pawns were proceeding forward. Now the cloudy eyes of the city moved out of fog and mist. Captain, the windows, what? Those house windows. There, I saw them move. I didn't see it. They shifted. They changed color from dark to light. Looked like ordinary square windows to me. Blurred objects focused in the mechanical ravines of the city. Oiled shafts plunged. Balanced wheels dipped over into green oil pools. The window frames flexed. The windows gleamed. Below in the street walked 2 men. A patrol followed at a safe interval by 7 more. Their uniforms were white, their faces as pink as if they had been shaped. Their eyes were blue. They walked upright upon hind legs, carrying metal weapons. Their feet were booted. They were males with eyes, ears, mouths, noses. The windows trembled. The windows thinned. They dilated imperceptibly like the irises of numberless eyes. I tell you, Captain, it's the windows. Get along. I'm going back, sir. What? I'm going back to the rocket. Mr. Smith, I'm not falling into any trap. Afraid of an empty city? The others laughed uneasily. Go on, laugh. The street was stone-cobbled. Each stone 3 inches wide, 6 inches long. With a move unrecognizable as such, the street settled. It weighed the invaders. In a machine cellar, a red wand touched a numeral: 178 pounds, 210, 154, 201, 198. Each man weighed, registered, and the record spooled down into a correlative darkness. Now the city was fully awake. Now the vents sucked in blue air, the tobacco odor from the invaders' mouths, the green soap scent from their hands. Even their eyeballs had a delicate odor. The city detected it, and this information formed the totals which scurried down to total other totals. The crystal windows glittered. The ear tautened and skinned the drum of its hearing tighter. All of the senses of the city swarming like a fall of unseen snow, counting the respiration and dim hidden heartbeats of the men, listening, watching, and tasting. For the streets were like tongues, and where the men passed, the taste of their heels ebbed down through the stone pores to be calculated on litmus. This chemical totality, so subtly collected, was appended to the now increasing sums waiting the final calculation among the whirling wheels and whispering spokes. Footsteps, running. Come back, Smith! No, blast you! Get in, men! Footsteps rushing. The final test. The city, having listened, watched, tasted, felt, weighed, balanced, must perform a final task. A trap flung wide in the street. The captain, unseen to the others, running, vanished. Hung by his feet, a razor drawn across his throat, another down his chest, his carcass instantly emptied of its entrails, exposed upon a table under the street. In a hidden cell, the captain died. Great crystal microscopes stared at the red twines of muscle. Bodiless fingers probed the still pulsing heart. The flaps of his sliced skin were pinned to the table, while hands shifted parts of his body like a quick and curious player of chess, using the red pawns and red pieces. Above on the street the men ran. Smith ran. Men shouted. Smith shouted. And below in this curious room blood flowed into capsules, was shaken, spun, shoved on smear slides, under further microscopes counts made, temperatures taken. Heart cut in 17 sections, liver and kidneys expertly halved. Brain was drilled and scooped from bone socket. Nerves pulled forth like the dead wires of a switchboard, muscles plucked for elasticity, while in the electric subterrane of the city the mind at last totaled out its grandest total, and all of the machinery ground to a monstrous and momentary halt. The total. These are men. These are men from a far world, a certain planet, and they have certain eyes, certain ears, and they walk upon legs in a specified way and carry weapons and think and fight, and they have particular hearts and all such organs as are recorded from long ago. Above, men ran down the street toward the rocket. Smith ran. The total. These are our enemies. These are the ones we have waited for 20,000 years to see again. These are the men upon whom we waited to visit revenge. Everything totals. These are the men of a planet called Earth who declared war upon Tyolian 20,000 years ago, who kept us in slavery and ruined us and destroyed us with great disease. And they went off to live in another galaxy to escape that disease which they visited upon us after ransacking our world. They have forgotten that war and that time, and they have forgotten us, but we have not forgotten them. These are our enemies. This is certain. Our waiting is done. Smith, come back, quickly. Upon the red table with the spread-eagled captain's body empty, new hands began a fight of motion. Into the wet interior were placed organs of copper, brass, silver, aluminum, rubber, and silk. Spider-spun gold web, which was stung into the skin. A heart was attached, and into the skull case was fitted a platinum brain, which hummed and fluttered small sparkles of blue fire, and the wires led down through the body into the arms and legs. In a moment the body was sewn tight, the incisions waxed, healed the neck and throat, and about the skull, perfect, fresh, new. The captain sat up and flexed his arms. Stop! On the street the captain reappeared, raised his gun, and fired. Smith felt a bullet in his heart. The other men turned. The captain ran to him. That fool, afraid of his city! They looked at the body of Smith at their feet. They looked at their captain, and their eyes widened and narrowed. Listen to me, said the captain. I have something important to tell you. Now the city, which had weighed and tasted and smelt them, which had used all its powers to save one, prepared to use its final ability, the power of speech. It did not speak with the rage and hostility of its massed walls or towers, nor with the bulk of its cobbled avenues or fortresses of machinery. It spoke with the quiet voice of one man. I am no longer your captain, he said, nor am I a man. The men moved back. I am the city, he said, and smiled. I've waited 200 centuries, he said. I've waited for the sons of the sons of the sons to return. Captain, sir, let me continue. Who built me? The city. The men who died built me, the old race who once lived here, the people whom the Earthmen left to die in a terrible disease, a form of leprosy with no cure, and the men, that old race, dreaming of the city when the Earthmen might return, built the city, and the name of the city and is Revenge, upon the planet of darkness, near the shore of the Sea of Centuries, by the mountains of the dead, all very poetic. The city is to be a balancing machine, a litmus, an antenna, to test all future space travelers. In 20,000 years, only 2 other rockets landed here, one from a distant galaxy called Int, and the inhabitants of that craft were tested, weighed, found wanting, and let free unscathed from the city, as were the visitors in the second ship. But today, at long last, you've come. The revenge will be carried out to the last detail. Those men who have been dead 200 centuries, but they left a city here to welcome you. Captain, sir, you're not feeling well. Perhaps you'd better come back to the ship, sir. The city trembled. The pavements opened, and the men fell screaming. Falling, they saw bright razors flash to meet them. Time passed. Soon came the call. Smith, here. Jensen, here. Jones, Hutchinson, Springer, here, here, here. They stood by the door of the rocket. We returned to Earth immediately. Yes, sir. The incisions on their necks were invisible, as were their hidden brass hearts and silver organs and the fine golden wire of their nerves. There was a faint electric hum from their heads. On the double, 9 men hurried the golden bombs of disease culture into the rocket. These are to be dropped on Earth. Right, sir. The rocket valve slammed. The rocket jumped into the sky. As the thunder faded, the city lay upon the summer meadows. Its glass eye were dulled over. The ear relaxed, the great nostril vents stopped, the streets no longer weighed or balanced, and the hidden machinery paused at its bath of oil. In the sky the rocket dwindled. Slowly, pleasurably, the city enjoyed the luxury of dying. 0 hour. Oh, it was to be so jolly. What a game. Such excitement they hadn't known in years. The children catapulted this way and that across the green lawns, shouting at each other, holding hands, flying in circles, climbing trees, laughing. Overhead the rockets flew and the beetle cars whispered by on the streets, but the children played on. Such fun, such tremulous joy, such tumbling and hearty screaming. Mink ran into the house all dirt and sweat. For her 7 years she was loud and strong and definite. Her mother, Miss Morris, hardly saw her as she yanked out drawers and rattled pans and tools into a large sack. Heavens, Mink, what's going on? The most exciting game ever, gasped Mink, pink-faced. Stop and get your breath, said the mother. No, I'm all right, gasped Mink. Okay, I take these things, Mom? But don't dent them, said Miss Morris. Thank you, cried Mink. And boom, she was gone like a rocket. Miss Morris surveyed the fleeting tot. What's the name of this game? Invasion, said Mink. The door slammed. In every yard on the street, children brought out knives and forks and pokers and old stovepipes and can openers. It was an interesting fact that this fury and bustle occurred only among the younger children. The older ones, those 10 years or more, disdained the affair and marched scornfully off on hikes or played more dignified versions of hide-and-seek on their own. Meanwhile, parents came and went in chromium beetles. Repairmen came to repair the vacuum elevators in houses, to fix fluttering television sets or hammer upon stubborn food delivery tubes. The adult civilization passed and repassed the busy youngsters, jealous of the fierce energy of the wild tots, tolerantly amused at their flourishings, longing to join in themselves. This and this and this, said Mink, instructing the others with their assorted spoons and wrenches. Do that. Bring that over there. No, here, Ninny. Right, now get back while I fix this. Tongue in teeth, face wrinkled in thought. Like that, see? Yay, shouted the kids. 12-year-old Joseph Carnes ran up. Go away, said Mink straight at him. I want to play, said Joseph. Can't, said Mink. Why not? You just make fun of us. Honest, I wouldn't. No, we know you. Go away or we'll kick you. Another 12-year-old boy whirred on by little motor skates. Hey, Joe, come on, let them sissies play. So Joseph slowed reluctance and a certain wistfulness. I want to play, he said. You're old, said Mink firmly. Not that old, said Joe sensibly. You'd only laugh and spoil the invasion. The boy on the motor skates made a rude lip noise. Come on, Joe. Them and their fairies. Nuts. Joseph walked off slowly. He kept looking back all down the block. Mink was already busy again. She made a kind of apparatus with her gathered equipment. She had appointed another little girl with a pad and pencil to take down notes at a painful, slow scribbles. Their voices rose and fell in warm sunlight. All around them the city hummed. The streets were lined with good green and peaceful trees. Only the wind made a conflict across the city, across the country, across the continent. In 1,000 other cities there were trees and children and avenues, businessmen in their quiet offices tapping their voices or watching televisors. Rockets hovered like dancing needles in the blue sky. There was a universal quiet conceit and easiness of men accustomed to peace, quite certain there would never be trouble again. Arm in arm, men over Earth were a united front. The perfect weapons were held in equal trust by all nations. A situation of incredibly beautiful balance had been brought about. There were no traitors among men, no unhappy ones, no disgruntled ones. Therefore the world was based upon a stable ground. Sunlight illuminated half the world, and the trees drowsed in a tide of warm air. Mink's mother, from her upstairs window, gazed down with the children. She looked upon them and shook her head. Well, they'd eat well, sleep well, and be in school on Monday. Bless their vigorous little bodies, she listened. Mink talked earnestly to someone near the rose bush, though there was no one there. These odd children, and the little girl, what was her name? Anna? Anna took notes on the pad. First Mink asked the rose bush a question, then called the answer to Anna. Triangle, said Mink. What's a said Anna with difficulty. Angle. Never mind, said Mink. How do you spell it? Asked Anna. T-R-I, spelled Mink slowly, then snapped, Oh, spell it yourself, and she went on to the other words. Beams, she said. I haven't got to try, said Anna. Angle down yet. Well, hurry, hurry, cried Mink. Mink's mother leaned out of the upstairs window. Angle, she spelled down at Anna. Oh, thanks, Miss Morris, said Anna. Certainly, said Mink's mother, and withdrew, laughing, to dust the hall with an electro-duster magnet. The voices wavered on the shimmery air. Beams, said Anna, fading. 497 A and B and X, said Mink, far away, seriously, and a fork and a string and a hexagonal. At lunch, Mink gulped milk at one toss and was at the door. Her mother slapped the table. You sit right back down, commanded Miss Morris. Hot soup in a minute. She poked a red button on the kitchen butler, and 10 seconds later something landed with a bump on the rubber receiver. Miss Morris opened it, took out a can with a pair of aluminum holders, unsealed it with a click, and poured hot soup into a bowl. During all this, Mink fidgeted. Hurry, Mom, this is a matter of life and death. Oh, I was the same way at your age. Always life and death, I know. Mink banged away at the soup. Slow down, said Mom. I can't, said Mink. Drill's waiting for me. Who's Drill? What a peculiar name, said Mom. You don't know him, said Mink. A new boy in the neighborhood? Asked Mom. He's new, all right, said Mink. She started on her second bowl. Which one is Drill? Asked Mom. He's around, said Mink evasively. You'll make fun. Everybody pokes fun. Gee darn. Is Drill shy? Yes, no, in a way. Gosh, Mom, I gotta run if we want to have the invasion. Who's invading what? Martians invading Earth. Well, not exactly Martians. They're, I don't know, from up. She pointed with her spoon. And inside, said Mom, touching Mink's feverish brow. Mink rebelled. You're laughing. You'll kill Drill and everybody. I didn't mean to, said Mom. Drill's a Martian? No, he's, well, maybe from Jupiter or Saturn or Venus. Anyway, he's had a hard time. I imagine, said Miss Morris, and hid her mouth behind her hand. They couldn't figure a way to attack Earth. We're impregnable, said Mom, in mock seriousness. That's the word Drill used. That was the word, Mom. My, Drill's a brilliant little boy. 2-bit words. They couldn't figure a way to attack, Mom, Drill says. He says in order to make a good fight, you have to have a new way of surprising people. That way you win. He also says you have to get to have help from your enemy. A fifth column, said Mom. Yeah, that's what Drill said. And they couldn't figure a way to surprise Earth or get help. No wonder. We're pretty darn strong, Martin laughed. Cleaning up, Mink sat there, staring at the table, seeing what she was talking about. Until one day, whispered Mink melodramatically, they thought of children. Well, said Miss Morris brightly, and they thought of how grown-ups are so busy they never look under the rose bushes or on the lawns, only for snails and fungus. And then there's something about dim-dims. Dim-dims? Dimensions? 4 of them. And there's something about kids under 9 and imagination. It's really funny to hear Drill talk. Miss Morris was tired. Well, it must be funny. You're keeping Drill waiting now. It's getting late in the day, and if you want to have your invasion before supper bath, you'd better jump. Do I have to take a bath? Growled Mink. You do. Why is it children hate water? No matter what age you live in, children hate water behind the ears. Drill says I won't have to take baths, said Mink. Oh, he does he? He told us all the kids that no more baths, and we can stay up till 10 o'clock and go to televisor shows on Saturday instead of 1. Well, Mr. Drill better mind his P's and Q's. I'll call up his mother. And Mink went to the door. We're having trouble with guys like Pete Bentz and Dale Jarrick. They're growing up. They make fun. They're worse than parents. They just won't believe in Drill. They're so snooty 'cause they're grown up. You'd think they'd know better. They were only a couple of years ago. I hate them worst. We'll kill them first. Your father and I last? Drill says you're dangerous. Know why? 'Cause you don't believe in Martians. They're going to let us run the world. Well, not just us, but the kids over the next block, too. I might be queen. She opened the door. Mom? Yes. What's logic? Logic? Why, dear, logic is knowing what things are true and not true. He mentioned that, said Mink. And what's impressionable? It took her a minute to say it. Why, it means, her mother looked at the floor, laughing gently, it means to be a child, dear. Thanks for lunch. Mink ran out and stuck her head back in. Ma, I'll be sure you won't be hurt much, really. Well, thanks, said Mom. Slam went the door. At 4 o'clock the audiovisor buzzed. Miss Morris flipped the tab. Hello, Helen, she said in a welcome. Hello, Mary. How are things in New York? Fine. How are things in Scranton? You look tired. So do you, the children underfoot, said Helen. Miss Morris sighed. My Mink, too. It's a super invasion. Helen laughed. Are your kids playing that game, too? Lord, yes. Tomorrow it'll be geometrical jacks and motorized hopscotch. Were we this bad when we were kids in 48? Worse. Japs and Nazis. Don't know how many parents put up with me. Tomboy. Parents learned to shut their ears. A silence. What's wrong, Mary? Asked Helen. Miss Morris's eyes were half closed. Her tongue slid slowly, thoughtfully over her lower lip. Eh? She jerked. Oh, nothing. Just thought about that. Shutting ears and such. Never mind. Where were we? My boy Tim's got a crush on some guy named Drill, I think he was. Must be a new password. Mink likes him too. Didn't know it had got as far as New York. Word of mouth, I imagine. Looks like a scrap drive. I talked to Josephine, and she said her kids that's in Boston are wild on this new game. It's sweeping the country. At this moment, Mink trotted into the kitchen to gulp a glass of water. Miss Morris turned. How are things going? Almost finished, said Mink. Swell, said Miss Morris. What's that? A yo-yo, said Mink. Watch. She flung the yo-yo down its string. Reaching the end of it, it vanished. See, said Mink. Ope. Dibbling her fingers, she made the yo-yo reappear and zip up the string. Do that again, said her mother. Can't. 0 hours, 5 o'clock. Bye. Mink exited, zipping her yo-yo. On the audiovisor, Helen laughed. Tim brought one of these yo-yos in this morning, but when I got curious, he said he wouldn't show it to me, and when I tried to work it, finally it wouldn't work. You're not impressionable, said Miss Morris. What? Never mind. Something I thought of. Can I help you, Helen? I wanted to get that black and white cake recipe. The hour drowsed by. The day wound. The sun lowered in the peaceful blue sky. Shadows lengthened on the green lawns. The laughter and excitement continued. One little girl ran away crying. Miss Morris came out of the front door. Mink, was that Peggy Ann crying? Mink was bent over in the yard near the rosebush. Yeah, she's a scare baby. We won't let her play now. She's getting too old to play. I guess she grew up all of a sudden. Is that why she cried? Nonsense. Give me a civil answer, young lady, or inside you come. Mink whirled in consternation, mixed with irritation. I can't quit now. It's almost time. I'll be good. I'm sorry. Did you hit Peggy Ann? No, honest. You ask her. It was something, well, she's just a scaredy pants. The ring of children drew in around Mink, where she scowled at her work with spoons and a kind of square-shaped arrangement of hammers and pipes. There and there, murmured Mink. What's wrong? Said Miss Morris. Drill's stuck halfway. If we could only get him all the way through, it'd be easier. Then all the others could come through after him. Can I help? No, thanks. I'll fix it. All right, I'll call you for your bath in half an hour. I'm tired of watching you. She went in and sat in the electric relaxing chair, sipping a little beer from a half-empty glass. The chair massaged her back. Children, children, children and love, hate, side by side. Sometimes children loved you, hated you, all in half a second. Strange children. Did they ever forget or forgive the whippings and harsh, strict words of command? She wondered. How can you ever forget or forgive those over and above you, those tall and silly dictators? Time passed. A curious waiting silence came upon the street, deepening. 5 o'clock. A clock sang softly somewhere in the house in a quiet, musical voice. 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock, time's a-wasting, 5 o'clock, and purred away into silence. 0 hour. Miss Morris chuckled in her throat. 0 hour. A beetle car hummed into the driveway. Miss Morris smiled. Mr. Morris got out of the beetle, locked it, and called hello to Mink at her work. Mink ignored him. He laughed and stood for a moment, watching the children, then he walked up the front steps. Hello, darling. Hello, Henry. She strained forward on the edge of the chair, listening. The children were silent, too silent. He emptied his pipe, refilled it. Swell day. Makes you glad to be alive. Buzz. What's that? Asked Henry. I don't know. She got up suddenly, her eyes widening. She was going to say something. She stopped it. Ridiculous. Her nerves jumped. Those children haven't anything dangerous out there, have they? She said. Nothing but pipes and hammers. Why? Nothing electrical? Heck no, said Henry. I looked. She walked to the kitchen. The buzzing continued. Just the same, you better go tell them to quit. It's after 5. Tell them, her eyes widened and narrowed. Tell them to put off their invasion until tomorrow, she laughed nervously. The buzzing grew louder. What are they up to? I'd better go look, all right. The explosion. The house shook with dull sound. There were other explosions in other yards on other streets. Involuntarily, Miss Morris screamed. Up this way, she cried senselessly, knowing no sense, no season. Perhaps she saw something for the corners of her eyes. Perhaps she smelled a new odor or heard a new noise. There was no time to argue with Henry or convince him. Let him think her insane. Yes, insane. Shrieking, she ran upstairs. He ran after her to see what she was up to. In the attic, she screamed. That's where it is. It was only a poor excuse to get him into the attic on time. In time. Another explosion outside. The children screamed with delight as if at great fireworks display. It's not in the attic, cried Henry. It's outside. No, no, wheezing, gasping, she fumbled at the attic door. I'll show you, Harry, I'll show you. They tumbled into the attic. She slammed the door and locked it, took the key, threw it into the far cluttered corner. She was babbling wild stuff now. It came out of her. All the subconscious suspicion and fear that had gathered secretly all afternoon and fermented like a wine in her. All the little revelations and knowledges and a sense that had bothered her all day, and which she knew had logically and carefully and sensibly rejected and censored, now it exploded in her and shook her to bits. There, there, she said, sobbing against the door. We're safe until night. Maybe we can sneak out. Maybe we can escape. Henry blew out too, but for another reason. Are you crazy? Why'd you throw that key away? Darn it, honey. Yes, I'm crazy if it helps, but stay here with me. I don't know how an H I can get out. Quiet, they'll hear us. Oh, God, they'll find us as soon enough. Below them, Mink's voice. The husband stopped. There was a great universal humming and sizzling, screaming and giggling. Downstairs, the audio televisor buzzed and buzzed insistently, alarmingly, violently. Is that Helen calling? Thought Miss Morris. Is she calling about what I think she's calling about? Footsteps came into the house, heavy footsteps. Who's coming into my house? Demanded Henry angrily. Who's tramping around down there? Heavy feet, 20, 30, 40, 50 of them, 50 persons crowding into the house, the humming, the giggling of the children. This way, cried Mink below. Who's downstairs? Roared Henry. Who's there? Hush. Oh, no, said his wife weakly, holding him. Please be quiet. They might go away. Mom, called Mink. Dad, a pause. Where are you? Heavy footsteps, heavy, very heavy footsteps came up the stairs, Mink leading them. Mom, a hesitation. Dad, a waiting silence. Humming, footsteps toward the attic, Mink first. They trembled together in silence in the attic, Mr. and Miss Morris. For some reason, the electric humming, the queer, cold light suddenly visible under the door crack, the strange odor and the alien sound of eagerness in Mink's voice finally got through to Henry Morris, too. He stood shivering in the dark silence for his wife beside him. Mom, Dad, footsteps. A little humming sound. The attic lock melted. The door opened. Mink peered inside, tall blue shadows behind her. Peekaboo, said Mink. The rocket. Many nights Fiorelli Bodoni would awaken to hear the rocket sighing in the dark sky. He would tiptoe from bed, certain that his kind wife was dreaming to let himself out into the night air. For a few moments he would be free of the smells of old food in the small house by the river. For a silent moment he would let his heart soar alone into space, following the rockets. Now this very night he stood half naked in the darkness, watching the fire fountains murmuring in the air, the rockets of their long wild way to Mars and Saturn and Venus. Well, Bodoni. Bodoni stared. On a milk crate by the silent river sat an old man who also watched the rockets through the midnight hush. Oh, it's you! Bramante. Do you come out every night, Bodoni? Only for the air. So? I prefer the rockets myself, said old Bramante. I was a boy when they started 80 years ago, and I've never been on one yet. I'll ride up in one some day, said Bodoni. Fool, said Bramante, you'll never go. This is a rich man's world. He shook his gray head, remembering. When I was young, they wrote it in fiery letters, the world of their future, science, comfort, and new things for all. Ha, 80 years, the future becomes now. Do we fly rockets? No. We live in shacks like our ancestors before us. Perhaps my sons, said Bodoni. No, nor their sons, the old man shouted. It's the rich who have dreams and rockets. Bodoni hesitated. Old man, I've saved $3,000. It took me 6 years to save it, for my business to invest in machinery, but every night for a month now, I've been awake. I hear the rockets. I think... And tonight I've made up my mind. One of us will fly to Mars. His eyes were shining and dark. Idiot, snapped Bramante. How will you choose? Who will go? If you go, your wife will hate you, for you will be just a bit nearer God in space. Will you tell your amazing trip to her over the years? Won't bitterness gnaw at her? No. Yes, and your children? Will their lives be filled with the memory of Papa who flew to Mars while they stayed here? What a senseless task you will set upon your boys. They will think of the rocket all their lives. They will lie awake. They will be sick with wanting it, just as you are sick now. They will want to die if they cannot go. Don't set that goal, I warn you. Let them be content with being poor. Turn their eyes down to their hands and to your junkyard, not up to the stars. But suppose your wife went. How would you feel knowing she had seen and you had not? She would become holy. You would think of throwing her in the river. No, Bodoni, buy a new wrecking machine, which you need, and pull your dreams apart with it and smash them to pieces. The old man subsided, gazing at the river in which drowned images of rockets burned down the sky. Good night, said Bodoni. Sleep well, said the other. When the toast jumped from its silver box, Bodoni almost screamed. The night had been sleepless among his nervous children. Beside his mountainous wife, Bodoni had twisted and stared at nothing. Bamonte was right. Better to invest the money. Why save it when only one of the family could ride the rocket, while the others remained to melt in frustration? "Fiorello, eat your toast," said his wife, Maria. "My throat is shriveled," said Baroni. The children rushed in, and the three boys fighted over a toy rocket, the two girls carrying dolls which duplicated the inhabitants of Mars, Venus, and Neptune, green mannequins with yellow eyes and 12 fingers. "I saw the Venus rocket," cried Paolo. "It took off, whoosh,